So this is Tim. His name is Tim. And Tim is outside. Outside. Tim is outside. And it is sunny. It is sunny. Sunny. And Tim feels hot. He feels hot. And he's thirsty. He's really thirsty. Tim wants something to drink. He's thirsty. He wants something to drink. He sees a store. He sees a store. Tim goes into the store. He goes into the store. Tim sees a can of Coca-Cola. There's a can of Coca-Cola. Tim wants to buy the Coca-Cola. He wants to buy the Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola costs $1. $1. A dollar. But Tim does not have a dollar. He doesn't have $1. So Tim cannot buy the Coca-Cola. He can't buy it. He can't buy the Coca-Cola. Tim is sad. He's sad, sad. Tim is sad. Tim leaves the store. He leaves the store. He leaves the store. Then Tim looks down. He sees a coin. He sees a coin. He picks up the coin. He picks up the coin. Now Tim is happy. Now Tim is happy. Happy. He has $1. Now he can buy the Coca-Cola. He can buy the Coca-Cola. So Tim goes back into the store and Tim buys the Coca-Cola. Tim leaves the store with the Coca-Cola. He leaves the store with the Coca-Cola. Tim drinks the Coca-Cola. Tim drinks the Coca-Cola. Now Tim is not thirsty anymore. He's not thirsty anymore. The end. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you some questions about the Coca-Cola. I'm going to go back through it. I'm going to ask you some questions about the Coca-Cola. This time I will ask you many questions. I will ask you many questions. And let me start with, let me see here. Okay. I will ask you many questions. These are all yes or no questions. And you can answer yes or no. You can answer yes or no. You don't have to answer anything. You can just listen if you want to. You can just listen, or you can answer yes or no. So this is Tim. His name is Tim. Is his name Bob? Is his name Bob? No, his name is not Bob. Is his name Tim? Yes, his name is Tim. His name is Tim. And Tim is outside. He's outside. Is Tim inside? This is inside. Is Tim inside? No, He is not inside. He isn't inside. Is he outside? Is he outside? Yes, Tim is outside. It is sunny. It is sunny. The day is sunny. The weather is sunny. Is it cloudy? Is it cloudy? Is it cloudy? No, it's not cloudy. Is it rainy? Is it rainy? Rainy? No, it's not rainy either. Is it, here we go, is it sunny? Is it sunny? Yes, it is sunny. It's sunny. Tim feels hot. Tim feels hot. Does Tim feel cold? Does he ever feel cold? No, Tim does not feel cold. He does not feel cold. Does Tim feel hot? Does he feel hot? Yes, Tim feels hot. Tim feels hot. Tim feels hot. Tim is thirsty. Tim is, oh, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. Is Tim hungry? Is Tim hungry? No. Tim is not hungry. Tim is not hungry. Is Tim thirsty? Is Tim, I'm thirsty. Is he thirsty? Yes. Tim is thirsty. Tim is thirsty. Tim is thirsty. He wants to drink something. He wants to drink something. Does Tim want to read something? Does he want to read something? No, Tim does not want to read something. He doesn't want to read something. Does Tim want to eat something? Does Tim want to eat something? No, Tim does not want to eat something. Tim does not want to eat something. Does Tim want to drink something? Does Tim want to drink something? Yes. Tim wants to drink something. Tim wants to drink something. There he is. Tim sees a store. Tim sees a store. There's the store. Tim sees. He sees a store. Does Tim see a house? Does Tim see a house? No. Tim does not see a house. Tim does not see a house. Does Tim see a store? Does Tim see, let's see if it pops up. Does he see a store? Yes. Yes. Tim sees a store. Tim sees a store. Tim goes into the store. He goes into the store. Does Tim come out of the store? Does he come out of the store? I'm going this way. Does he come out of the store? No. Tim does not come out of the store. Tim does not come out of the store. Yeah, he does not come out of the store. Does Tim go into the store? Does he go into the store? Yes. Tim goes into the store. Inside now. Inside. Into. Yeah. So yes, Tim goes into the store. Tim sees a can of Coca-Cola. Tim sees a can of Coca-Cola. Does Tim see a can of Pepsi? Does Tim see a can of Pepsi? No, Tim does not see a can of Pepsi. He does not see a can of Pepsi. Does Tim see a bottle of Coca-Cola? A bottle of Coca-Cola? A bottle? No, Tim does not see a bottle of Coca-Cola. He does not see a bottle of Coca-Cola. Does Tim see a can of Coca-Cola? Does Tim see a can of Coca-Cola? Yes, Tim sees a can of Coca-Cola. Tim sees a can of Coca-Cola. Tim sees a can of Coca-Cola. He wants to buy the Coca-Cola. He wants to buy the Coca-Cola. Does Tim want to buy a can of Pepsi-Cola? Of Pepsi? No, Tim does not want to buy a can of Pepsi. Does Tim want to buy a bottle of grape soda? No, he does not want to buy a bottle of grape soda. He doesn't want to buy a can of Pepsi. Does Tim want to buy a can of Coca-Cola? Yes, he does. He wants to buy a can of Coca-Cola. So Tim wants to buy the can of Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola costs $1. It costs $1. Does the Coca-Cola cost $3? Does it cost $3? No, the Coca-Cola costs $1. The Coca-Cola does not cost $3. It doesn't cost $3. Does the Coca-Cola cost $2? $2? $2? No, the Coca-Cola does not cost $2 either. It does not cost $2. Does the Coca-Cola cost $1? Does it cost $1? Yes, the Coca-Cola costs $1. The Coca-Cola costs $1. It costs $1. But Tim does not have a dollar. Tim does not have a dollar. Does Tim have a dollar? Does Tim have a dollar? No, Tim does not have a dollar. Does Tim have... Oh, yeah. So Tim cannot buy the Coca-Cola. He does not have $1, so he cannot buy the Coca-Cola. Tim cannot buy the Coca-Cola. Can Tim buy the Coca-Cola? Can Tim buy the Coca-Cola? No, Tim cannot buy the Coca-Cola. I'm going to ask you another question. Think about this for a second. This is a why question. Why? 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 Why can't Tim buy the Coca-Cola? I'm going to write that word for you. Why? Why can't Tim buy the Coca-Cola? Make it bigger here. Earlier today, I was doing small stuff. Yeah. I'm going to write the question here. Why? Why? Why can't Tim buy the Coca-Cola? Why can't he buy the Coca-Cola? Why? That's right, because he doesn't have $1. He doesn't have $1. All right. So Tim cannot buy the Coca-Cola because he does not have $1. Tim is sad. Tim is sad. Is Tim happy? Is Tim happy? No. Tim is not happy. Tim is not happy. Here's another question. Why isn't Tim happy? Why isn't Tim happy? Why? Yes. So Tim is not happy because he doesn't have $1. Is Tim sad? Is Tim sad? Yes. Tim is sad. Tim is sad. Yes, Tim is sad. Why is Tim sad? Why is Tim sad? Why? Why? He's sad because he doesn't have $1 and he can't buy the Coca-Cola. Tim leaves the store. Tim leaves the store. Does Tim stay in the store? Does he stay in the store? No. Tim does not stay in the store. Tim leaves the store. Tim leaves the store. There he goes. Come on, Tim. Does Tim leave the store? Yes. Tim leaves the store. Tim leaves the store. So Tim leaves the store. And then Tim looks down. He looks down. He looks down. Does Tim look up? Does Tim look up? No. Tim does not look up. He does not look up. Does Tim look down? Does Tim look down? Does Tim look down? Yes. Tim looks down. So Tim looks down. He sees a coin. He sees a coin, a coin, a coin, a coin. Does Tim see a bottle of Coca-Cola? Does Tim see a bottle of Coca-Cola? No, Tim does not see a bottle of Coca-Cola. He does not see a bottle of Coca-Cola. Does Tim see a can of Pepsi? Does he see a can of Pepsi? A can of Pepsi? Oh, Tim does not see a can of Pepsi either. He does not see a can of Pepsi. Does Tim see, let's see, a coin? Does he see a coin? Yes, Tim sees a coin. He sees a coin. Tim sees a coin. Tim picks up the coin. He picks up the coin. Does Tim put down the coin? Does he put down the coin? No, Tim does not put down the coin. Does Tim pick up the coin? Does Tim pick up the coin? Yes, Tim picks up the coin. Picks up the coin. Picks up the coin. Tim picks up the coin. Now, Tim is happy. He's happy. Tim is happy. Is Tim still sad? Is Tim still sad? No, Tim is not sad anymore. Tim is happy. Why is Tim happy? Why is Tim happy? Why? Why? Yes, because he has $1. And now he can buy the Coca-Cola. Yeah, so Tim is now happy. He's now very happy. Very happy. What do you think? What do you think Tim does next? What does Tim do next? What does he do now? What does he do now? Okay. He has $1. Yeah, he has $1. Does Tim have $1? Does Tim have $1? Yes, Tim has $1. He has $1. He now has $1. He can now buy the Coca-Cola. He can now buy the Coca-Cola. He can now buy something to drink. Can Tim buy the Coca-Cola? Can Tim buy the Coca-Cola? Yes, Tim can buy the Coca-Cola. Tim can now buy the Coca-Cola. So Tim goes back into the store. He goes back into the store. He goes back into the store. Does Tim go back into the store? Does Tim go back into the store? Yes, Tim goes back into the store. Tim buys the Coca-Cola. Tim buys the Coca-Cola. Does Tim buy the Coca-Cola? Does Tim buy the Coca-Cola? The can of Coca-Cola? Yes, Tim buys the can of Coca-Cola. He buys the can of Coca-Cola. Tim leaves the store with the Coca-Cola. Tim leaves the store with the Coca-Cola. Does Tim stay in the store? Does he stay in the store? No, Tim does not stay in the store. Does Tim leave the store? Does he leave the store? Yes. Yes, Tim leaves the store. Tim leaves the store. Tim leaves the store with the can of Coca-Cola. Does he leave without the Coca-Cola? No, he does not leave without the Coca-Cola. He doesn't leave the store without the Coca-Cola. Does Tim leave the store with the Coca-Cola? Does he leave the store with the Coca-Cola? Yes, Tim leaves the store with the Coca-Cola. What do you think Tim will do next? What will Tim do now? What will he do now? What do you think he'll do now? He has the Coca-Cola. He wanted the Coca-Cola. What will he do with the Coca-Cola? Will he pour it over his head? Will he pour it over his head? No. Yeah. Tim drinks the Coca-Cola. Tim drinks the Coca-Cola. Does Tim eat the Coca-Cola? Does Tim eat the Coca-Cola? No, Tim does not eat the Coca-Cola. He does not eat the Coca-Cola. Tim does not eat the Coca-Cola. Does Tim drink the Coca-Cola? Does Tim drink the Coca-Cola? Yes. Tim drinks the Coca-Cola. He drinks the Coca-Cola. Yeah. Now Tim is not thirsty anymore. He's not thirsty anymore. He's not thirsty anymore. Tim is not thirsty anymore. Is Tim still thirsty? Is he still thirsty? No, Tim is not thirsty anymore. He's not thirsty. Why isn't Tim thirsty? Why isn't Tim thirsty? Why? Because he drank the Coca-Cola. Yeah, he drank the Coca-Cola. So Tim is not thirsty anymore. The end.